Okay. Hello, hello. Good morning. Um, I readjusted the ad thing, so we should have just had an ad. Well, there's nobody here, but to let people trickle in at the beginning here without getting ads right away at the start. Um, as always, let me know how that works out. I wish I could see the ads when they're happening, so I know what the schedule is. That'd be a neat feature. Um, I don't want to delay too much because I don't think any of these things are going to take very long, except the first one, which is why I'm going to start it right away, even before I put on my coffee. And that is beans. I actually have already started the beans last night. Oop, knock stuff over. My beans. Beans. Now, when I put them in there, they were only that high. They've doubled in height. I'm going to have quite a lot of beans. Fortunately, I like beans, so no problem there. We do need to get rid of this water, for which I should probably use the filtering lid that came with the jug. Instructions for making beans from dry always say put them in a pot, which I've always done. And then I realized, why am I putting them in a pot when I can put them in a jug? Because then I can just pour the liquid off. Which of course you can't see because there's no camera over by the sink, but believe me when I say it, it just looks like I'm pouring water out of a jug. So those are overnight soaked navy beans, and now they're drained overnight soaked navy beans. That's the trouble with dry beans. You have to know you want them the day before you want them because they take forever. There's a method for the quick soak method I've heard, and I've tried it out, and I think it's an inferior bean. So I like the overnight. Oops, still got the pre-show sign up. Get rid of that. I'm going to start them front and center so you can see what I'm doing, but then they're going to get moved to the back corner for sure because they're going to have to sit and kind of slowly bruddle away while we work on everything else. Get these guys started, and then I can slow down a moment, work on my coffee, talk about what else I'm going to make today. We're going to get that pan heating up with a little bit of oil, just so it's at least started. Um, so I'm indeed making baked beans for breakfast. Well, baked beans for lunch because they're not going to be done until lunchtime for sure. That was a loud squeak. Uh, find a smallish onion in here. Nothing to see on the stove, so let's pop over here. Let's move the gentleman and our friend Tiny Whisk. It's a funny shaped onion, so I'm going to use a paring knife to get it started. Oh, and we need a scraps bowl. All scraps. My compost bucket is filling up, but my compost guy is a little bit under the weather. So I need to. I haven't seen him for a while. I need to schedule a transfer of compost. Eh. Okay, I guess we're losing part of the outer layer here. Sometimes these onions peel super easily, and sometimes I have to fight with the papers to get them to let go. Ugh. Okay. I actually only want half of it. Is there garlic in this? Interestingly, no, but there's mustard, which I don't know that I have. We might have to use prepared mustard. I don't think I have any dry mustard. I have a reference recipe, Simply Recipes, baked beans, just for flavor elements. I'm not following their recipe in terms of preparing it, because they start with canned beans, and I've started with dry beans. So my beans need to fully cook in addition to getting all the flavors. And I would like my onions to start the journey here. Get a nice little softening translucence. You know how recipes say, saute until translucent. What does that mean? Well, keep an eye on it, and when they stop being so white and turning a little bit more clear, probably good. We're going to give it a dash of salt. Salt helps the onions express their moisture, soften up, and tenderize without immediately browning. I'm going to set my beans aside because this is a plastic container they're in. I don't want it to melt. It smells like something is in the. It smells like something fell into my burner and was burning just now. I got a whiff of like burning cookies. Either that or I'm having a stroke. But let's go with the first one. Something was in the burner. I'm sticking with veggie stuff this morning. So I need mustard. Do I have dry mustard? Once upon a time I did, but I think I either used it up or decided that I was never going to use it and tossed it. We might have some whole mustard seed. I didn't check this one out in advance. Oop, what's that guy? Probably celery salt. That one's celery salt. Ooh, I do have whole mustard seed. Okay, we'll use whole mustard seed since I don't have mustard powder. Interesting. We do need a bay leaf as well. I've got those. And ooh, we're getting low on those. I still don't really know what bay leaf does. Like, it probably adds a really subtle note that modifies other flavors, because you can't really taste it. You can never really taste it by itself. And the other big elements to this type of thing is sugar. There's a lot of sugar in baked beans. I'm not using bacon. A lot of our baked bean recipes start with bacon, and then they use the bacon fat as the starter. Tomato, molasses, sugar, mustard, bay leaf, salt, water. Pretty simple. Honestly, it's quite simple. I want to add a little bit of garlic to mine, so let's get out a garlic. Our garlic is starting to go sprouty, so let's use it up. These are big garlics. I might just use one of them. Nah, we'll use both of them. I've already gone this far and gotten them out. We'll use both of them. You never have too much garlic. Oh, I should pop over to my dashboard panel while I'm just sort of sitting here peeling garlic, because I don't need that recipe up all the time. So I'm trying to work out some plans for next week, because it's going to be my birthday, but not on a regular stream day. So I am thinking about trying a Wednesday show for the old birthday. It would also give me the kick I need to finish off things like setting up that damn bot that I downloaded and never installed. So I guess stay tuned for that. I'll put it on my schedule, and of course I'll mention on Twitter and Discord when I am live. Well, that's another thing. I actually created my own Discord, but it's still private. I haven't invited anybody to it. You can't get in. It's just me talking to myself. I should make that official as well. See, now I'd need a big knife, because we have small garlics here. Give them a little crush. Give them a little crush to express the flavors. But then I don't normally do the claw, the chef's cutting claw, but I cut myself last week. You'll remember I had to skip Tuesday. It was because I sliced my finger open, cutting like this. Actually, cutting like this. You can see the nick right there lines up perfectly with this knife. So I really need to remind myself and put in an effort to learn how to do the claw, which is when you hold the thing you're cutting like this, so that the blade glides past your knuckles instead of into your fingertips. I'm generally pretty careful, but it's bad practice, because sometimes you'll slip. Eventually you'll slip. Oop! Well, I wasn't paying attention to my onions, and they went from translucent to rapidly browning very quickly. Uh, so we need to move fast now, because that garlic will burn even faster than the onions. We're going to add quite a bit of water to this. I should add the beans first to get them in there and use them as a gauge. For adding water. Because the beans need to be covered in water. I hope this pot's big enough. Now they shouldn't, unlike say rice or noodles or something, the beans have already plumped up because they soaked overnight. So they're not going to absorb a ton more water. They just need to be heated in the water. They will absorb a little bit, and we'll also have evaporation, so we'll have to keep an eye on the liquid levels to make sure we don't dry out the beans and burn the bottoms. But they're not gonna. They shouldn't expand much more than this. Probably shouldn't have done that much beans. I was doing a whole plan ahead. Doing the old plan ahead. Dig up. I cut my finger off. Welcome in. I cut my finger off stream. I actually canceled the stream because of the cut. I'm going to add some mushroom stock concentrate to this. I'm not going to bother making sure it's super stirred in. I rarely cut myself, even though I use bad knife technique. So it was really jarring when I did so, and it reminded me that I need to be careful, use proper technique. Let's come back over here. See, the beans need to come up to a actual boil. Selena, you are first. Hello. Welcome in. We are starting with some baked beans this morning. And I'm getting them going because they're going to take by far the longest. And then once I've got all the things in there, I can slow down, make a coffee. The big experiment today, baked beans are not a huge experiment. I don't often make them, but they're not that hard to make. The big experiment is, if you'll remember, if you're a longtime viewer, I made my own seitan using the washed flour method. And I saved the starch that I washed out of it. Apparently, you can make bacon out of that starch. So I'm going to try making wheat starch bacon. Ooh, a bread knife. Ooh, that's the worst. I cut myself with this knife. So it's just a nice, it's pretty sharp too. So it's just a nice, clean, straight cut. So it healed up real quick. If you're going to cut yourself, do it with a very sharp knife because it will seal up faster because the edge will be very straight. It's those ragged cuts that are really a big problem. Okay. Mustard powder from freshly ground mustard seed. Baked, anything else in baked beans? We need my favorite, molasses. It also calls for it also calls for brown sugar, and since brown sugar is just sugar with molasses in it, I'm going to skip that and put in a little bit more molasses and then some white sugar. Or heck, no white sugar, all molasses. Molasses is the better sugar. And our bay leaf that I got out in advance. Boop. That should be it. Tomato. I don't have like canned prepared tomato sauce. I do have just a whole fresh tomato. I guess we're going to throw a whole fresh tomato in there. Oop, it's got a sticker on it still. Now this is a winter greenhouse tomato, so no telling what it's going to look like on the inside. It's a little pale. So, welcome in, people. I am trying to focus on this beans. Focus on the beans while I'm still in the starting phase because they've got to get started. They've got to get well progressed if I'm going to have any hope of eating them before the end of the show. They're, ugh. Okay. We should use the big knife. I can. There you go. I was watching everyone's favorite Hekime cooking, and she was reaching for. She was actually making an American recipe that I am only passingly familiar with. The 7-layer bar or the magic brownie bar. She kept reaching for a small paring knife for everything. And I was like, no, especially for when like chopping pecans. Big knife, big knife. Big knives are easier to control. They've got more weight. They've got more space to grip. You don't have to like saw with them because the blade is long. So you can do these long, one-directional, straight strokes. Short knives are really for things where you need to maneuver, not for things that are themselves small. And I think that's where people get confused. when they're cutting up something that's small, they'll reach for a small knife, but that's the logic doesn't hold. I think that's all of our ingredients, except that there's no bacon in the beans because since everything else is veggie this morning, I figured I would stick with the theme. Just gonna wipe down the tomato juice here, which is, you can see, not red at all. Winter greenhouse tomatoes, not the best in the world. So probably a good job I'm stewing this one into oblivion. It wouldn't be the nicest eating. Yeah. I also want to get it on the back burner there. So we're gonna move it now before it's actively boiling. Get that back burner heating up. Okay. Okay. The beans are on. And I'll have to taste test them as I go and make sure I've got enough seasoning and flavor in there. There's quite a lot of beans. We might have to end up adding more. Okay. Okay, that was... With the first stage of this nonsense done, I'm going to move on to a cup of coffee. Bring things down a minute. Bring things down a minute. Our electric kettle. And my little French press. French press for one. It makes 1 cup of coffee. And our coffee of choice this morning shall be... What's this one? I didn't know I had this one. Let's try this one. There's very little of it, and it comes in a small package. It's called Liquid Love. And I'm not sure how long I've had it. It smells fine. Looks like a sample size. Probably get 1 more cup out of that. Oop! The beans are at a active boil, which means we got to turn them down. Get out a wooden spoon. Because we don't want them boiling over. It's just got to sort of sit here and simmer for the entire remainder of the show. What are you guys having for breakfast? I suppose an ad is going to play real soon. There it is. Or I suppose not everyone's in... it's not morning for everyone. This might not be a big enough pot for what I want to do here. Oh. So, we'll make our coffee. We're going to have scrambled eggs and bacon that contains neither eggs nor bacon. We're kind of making savory pancakes, really. Um, I've done I've done eggless scrambled eggs once before. And they're actually pretty easy. It's a very interesting thing. You make a dough or like a batter, but then you cook it down until it sets up into something that very much looks like scrambled eggs. They're a little bit firmer than scrambled eggs, actually. Um, and I'm also doing this because I've got some chickpea flour that I've had for ages now and I never use. So we're going to use it. I should get out my pans for my project. Looks like our beans are at a nice stable boil. That one in the front, that one in the back. Like our beans are at a nice sustainable level now. They're not foaming up. They're not gonna jump out of the pot. They've taken on that lovely, rich, dark brown color. As they thicken up, I will taste them for proper seasoning. Okay. Mmm. That's almost what I'm making, except without the Canadian bacon or the eggs. So I approve. And some coffee. That's some funny looking coffee. I don't know. I didn't know I had this coffee, and now it's. Well, no, it's floating like coffee does. It's a much finer grind than I think I usually go for. I'm not sure where I got it. It must have been a gift because it's in this little tiny like sample packet. Okay, beans, you need to chill out a little bit. You're boiling too fast. Um, oh, there's some residual goop in my large pan here, so I guess I'm going to have to take a moment out to scrub it down. Hot water, please. Oh, I know where that came from. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna say I don't know how I got goop in there. I just washed this pan, but it's because I had the other pan nested inside of it, and that pan I've noticed has been developing a little bit of a patina on the bottom. So I'm sure it's just gotten to the point where it's flaking off a little bit. Or maybe I just didn't wash this pan properly. If you'll remember from last week, Sizan, good morning. I got a slightly gooped up pan here. That is resisting my efforts to degoopify it. If you'll remember from Thursday, it was just Thursday, wow. I made that salmon. I did that in this pan, and after I did that, there was something distinctly burned onto the pan. And since this is a non-stick pan, it was not easy to get off. Because if your stuff sticks to a non-stick, then it's pretty sticky. And I thought I had it really cleaned off, but I guess I didn't quite get it. But hello, good morning. What are you having for breakfast? We've got beans on the go already. I had to get them started because they're going to take a million years. And then I went over to make some coffee, bring things down a notch. But our main events today are our vegan scrambled eggs and we're going to use our wheat starch, which is here, to make some bacon. Overnight oatmeal. I've done that. That's pretty good. Pour a little bit more of this water off without losing our starchy base. We have to get to this stuff too, because I don't know how much longer it will hold. There it is. It's in the bottom. It all settled out, and then you poured the water off, and I just did it again. It's almost the consistency of pancake batter. We're gonna have to struggle to get it out of this jug, I think, a little bit. Probably should have kept it in a smaller container, but if you'll remember when I was putting it together, this jug, oh, this light shouldn't be on. I filled this jug all the way up, and then it settled out about a half an inch of sludge at the bottom. Sludge. It was sludge, but it's the starches that we washed out of the seitan, which we didn't want to throw away. We're going to use them today because I've had them since I made that seitan, and I'm afraid they're going to start fermenting or something. And because there's a fun recipe for starch water bacon. Actually, we're probably going to add a little bit of water back to it. Plain non-fat Greek yogurt, protein powder, oatmeal, frozen fruit, some milk. Sounds good to me. I've done an overnight oats, and I'm not a big fan. It's the texture. They've got a. I usually am not a texture guy. Texture things don't bother me. Overnight oatmeal. The I don't know. The texture is off-putting for me. Okay. Just checking our beans a moment. Let's finish this coffee, and we can start thinking about our other things. Well, if you like it, but don't let me stop you. I'll be right over to stop you. Ooh, let's use the Spanish Inquisition mug. Here, I will. I'll show this off. Just a nondescript black mug. Don't mind that there's definitely something barely visible on it. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Funny mug. They obviously couldn't make it completely pitch black, so you can see, if you look closely, you can see the words when it's dark. Rinse out my the strainer part of my French press real quick. We'll let the boiling hot grounds part harden up a little bit. I quite like this mug. Don't tell anybody, but I'm going to add a non-veggie component to my breakfast by putting a splash of cream in my coffee. It's not listed as one of my projects for today, so I feel okay. Very hot though. Okay. Coffee in hand. Beans in boil. Let's do the starch water bacon as our first project. So I'm supposed to add some water to it to make it the consistency of a thin crepe batter. Currently we have the consistency of like wallpaper paste. If you're familiar with wallpaper paste, which you are not because no one is, because nobody does wallpaper anymore. So I need to add a little bit of water to it, but not too much. And it's got to be cold water, so we got to switch back to cold. And we'll grab a whisk to get it to combine. If you're familiar with oobleck, our non-Newtonian fluid friend, that's what this stuff is like right now. I'm pretty sure that's literally what we're doing. We're making here, I'll bring it back over. I got out a couple little cups for it. Here's the stuff. As you can see, I'm dissolving it. You can't see it. I'm trying to dissolve it, but there's this thickness to it at the bottom. It's really settled into itself. But then it drips away again, much like a non-Newtonian fluid. I need to get in there with something that I can scrape with to get it to release from the bottom. I probably let it set too long, and that's what's happening here. Is that it's just set itself into a block at the bottom because I didn't use it fast enough. Okay, now, of course, the directions of this should be like thin crepe batter. I've never made a crepe before. I don't know what the heck a thin crepe batter is supposed to look like. I probably added too much water back to this. It coats the back of a spoon. I almost tasted it thinking it was like milk, but it's just going to be starch. But a thin crepe batter should pour easily, right? That's the idea. Let's see what we got when I get it out of this jug now, just so we can have an easier look at it. It's like the consistency of a nut milk right now. There's quite a bit of it here too. It looks like we got it out of the bottom of the jug pretty effectively. Dread! Welcome in. Oops. You are in time to see this nonsense. This stuff is wheat starch from our homemade seitan that has had some water added back to it. And it is preparing to be my bacon. This is my bacon batter. Now there's a million ingredients here that are supposed to go into one of these things. One of them gets very few things. Salt, because bacon is salty. Onion powder, garlic powder. My garlic powder is a little bit darker brown than I think they are expecting. So the white part of our bacon, because what we're doing here is making the brown part of our bacon and the white part of our bacon. So the white part might be a little bit tiny whisk. Where did you go? There you are. Might be a little bit less white, but well, it still looks pretty white to me. This is the perfect job for tiny whisk because we've got tiny containers. This one, I'm already going to break the recipe because, haha, I'm not getting vegan red food coloring. I'm just going to use ordinary red food coloring that's made out of coal tar. Bet you didn't know that. Red number 1, I think, is a derivative of coal tar. Tasty. Coal tar is probably vegan, I'm sure. Yeah. Paprika. Smoked paprika. Quite a bit of it. I think we're going for the red and the smoky flavor from that. Some salt. Dried porcini or shiitake mushroom powder, which I don't have, but I do have this one is red number 40, so we can actually look up what that is. FD&C red 40. Allura red AC is it's a synthetic dye. It's a synthetic dye. It's disodium 6 hydroxyl 5 2 methoxyl 5 methyl 4 sulfonatyl phentyl diazenyl naphthalene 2 sulfonate. It's a synthetic. You're right. If it was carmine red, carmine is derived from beetles. This is that big chemical name I just read out. As far as I know, that's vegan, just because it's made from chemistry. Red 40, interesting. Funnily enough, Red 40 is the dye that's allowed in the U.S. and not allowed in Europe. They use a different red dye over in Europe. Different rules. How do you get this open? How do you get this open? I need a scissors. Scissors. Never keep the scissors in the kitchen for some reason. I should just get some dedicated kitchen scissors for scissoring kitchens. So we're going to put a mustard in here. I hope that's not a problem. But I'm going to try to grind up one of these mushrooms into a fine powder. Ooh, actually, this is a good job for the powered one that I almost never use because I prefer the hand grinder. But I think this mushroom is going to be a little bit too spongy. For me to grind with the mortar. So a good shout for the old powered grinder. We only need one of these mushrooms too, so a little goes a long way. I recently purchased a brand new package of shiitake mushrooms, got it home, and then I put it away. And where I was putting it away, there was already a package of fried shiitake mushrooms, same brand. And then while I was rummaging around, I found another one that had gotten put in a different place. So now I have 3 of them. I keep buying shiitake mushrooms. That should be nice and powdered. It does make a lovely neum sound. It also, no, it's actually not super nicely powdered. Part of it is. We don't even need all of it. One mushroom is too much. Smoke with prickly salt. Yeast. Specifically, nutritional yeast, which we're going to be using twice today. I'm not exactly measuring these out. You may have noticed. One of our fun ingredients, liquid smoke, my favorite brand, Stubbs. A lot of Stubbs is barbecue, but it, in fact, should be perfectly vegan because liquid smoke is just smoke that's been pushed. Well, this one actually has a couple of added things to it. It's got soy sauce, garlic, onion, and color. The most basic form of liquid smoke just contains smoke that's been forced through a water bath, and the smoke particles dissolve in the water. A little dash of this stuff. This is our seasoning flavored seasoning, everyone's favorite flavor. And I don't have any Marmite, so I'm just going to skip that part. Let's see what this looks like when I... It's kind of pink, honestly. Kind of more pink than I was expecting. I think it's supposed to be a little bit browner than that. It's also a little bit chunky because those bits of mushroom that didn't quite go down to powder are floating to the top. Fun. I want to make this browner. Do I even want to make this browner? What do you think? Is pink good enough? It's the color of uncooked bacon. It's probably good enough. As long as it's well mixed, we should be fine. Now I can't use the whisk in the white one anymore, so hopefully that didn't separate at all. One more drop of red. We can add one more drop of red. Make it a little bit redder. It's a slightly darker pink now. I was thinking of adding a drop of molasses to it, see if the brown from the molasses would help darken it up, but since we're frying this, I'm hesitant to add sugar to it. Well, I want it to look like cooked bacon when it's done, so I was hoping for like that sort of dark reddish brown that bacon gets. It might darken up as it cooks anyways, so we're going for the illusion. Those are our bacon ingredients. Large nonstick pan over medium heat. We want to make a crepe and then cook it until it's crisp. We also want to keep an eye on our beans, the boiling rate of which has gone up substantially. I'm tempted to add a little bit of water, but they're still pretty liquidy, so I guess I'll hold off. I just made a mess. I just made a mess. Get that before it dries on. Like it did on this side. The other element we have is our scrambled eggs. Oh, and my coffee. Can't forget my coffee. Beanful beans. Hi, Goldie. The beans contain a lot of bean. The beans contain possibly the most bean. Maybe even too much bean. Speaking of beans, I want to taste the bean broth before we cook it away completely. And this guy has to heat up still, so sweet, savory. Tastes a little bit watery, but that's because we're not done yet. I think the profile's correct. I just think it needs to finish cooking down and thickening up, and of course the beans are still not tender. They're little hard nuggets of bean. Bean. Um, so our next trick here is going to be this guy, and we're making a pancake. Ooh. We're basically making a savory, crispy crepe, and then we're slicing it up. So get these guys over here. These little jars. This is a brand of mustard. Do I have one that still has mustard in it? I do not. This is a brand of mustard that comes in these little glass, like barrels, with a handle and a plastic lid that just snaps over the top. And first of all, it's good mustard. Second of all, it's such a nice container that when you're done with the mustard, you get this nice little container. I love it. Zen! Everyone's rolling in to see this nonsense. So we need I don't have a cooking spray, so a dash of oil. Generously spread. I want a nice even coverage of oil before I put my crepe in there, which is what a spray would be perfect for. Fish coated in hash browns. That sounds fun. And it sounds like a full meal. If that's not a full meal, what's a full meal? I'm picturing you eating like huge American-sized feasts. Okay, we've got enough here to try this twice, I think. Oh boy. Okay, maybe. I should use something with a spout, because that was hard to pour. That was difficult to pour. It really wanted to run back down the side of the container. I should use something with I don't have anything small with a spout. Except for a measuring cup. But I only have one measuring cup that size. Okay. Well, for those of you following along at home, be careful. It wants to run down the side of the container. Run down to the side of your nice little mustard containers. The idea here is that we've got the red part and the white part, and when you're supposed to sort of do a zigzag of red and then fill it in with white. And then when you cut the big pancake here into strips, it looks like strips of bacon. Get that weird little tail off of there. I can't quite lift it up. I think our... Watch out for splattering oil. I didn't splatter any oil this time. That was cabbage roll bowls. Instant Pot. I don't have an Instant Pot. They look neat. I want to get this thing flipped. I think I'm supposed to flip it. Which means I got to get underneath it. It certainly smells like something. Let's put these in my... Ow. Okay. You know, it might actually be a little bit too thick. Especially the red part. I'm going to add just a smidgen of water to these guys to thin them out a little bit. I think our batter is just ever so slightly too thick. But that's it's coming along. It's not gonna... The color is darkening up nice. The color is looking pretty good. I think our strips are gonna look a little funny when we get down to that stage. Make your pancakes. Pour thin stripes of red and white into the hot pan. Move the pan to keep the batter as thin as possible. I think we poured it on too thick. I think we made more of a pancake. As a solid sheet, it should easily slide around the pan. No need to flip. So I didn't need to flip. I flipped it unnecessarily. So I guess we'll try it again with a slightly thinner sheet and not flip it. I definitely have enough batter to try this again. The only issue is that I don't have a spouted pouring device. Oh, let's see. Cabbage roll, ground beef tomato sauce, cabbage, beef broth, rice, onion, chopped up like dog food. Hearty and delicious. Yeah, that'll happen. Some food just we could try a spoon. We could try a spoon to drizzle it. We could pour it into this thing and then use the tips of this thing to drizzle it out for control. It is sort of shrinking back from these places where it. Yeah, this is. I think this is too thick. I think that's the issue we've got here. Oop. And I shredded it. And I immediately shredded it by trying to flip it again. Okay, well. Then the white and the red stuff are both the same stuff. Let's get these out of here. Last week, was it last week? I made my own homemade seitan using the washed flour method, washed dough method. So I made a blob of dough, let it set up, and then I repeatedly washed it in water, and the starches dissolved out of it, and we had a little blob of seitan, which is just the wheat proteins. But I didn't throw away the starches. Seitan, I will type it. Oh, Goldie typed it in. I didn't throw away the starch part. I just saved it, and it settles out of the water, and that's what this is. A little bit more in that space for sure. And I've added a bunch of flavorings to it. And we're making bacon. And the first one is more like a pancake. It tastes nice though. That's more what I was going for with the first one. A zigzag of red and then a zigzag, or fill in the spaces with the white. It does not taste like bacon. I will say that. You would not mistake this for bacon. But it is savory. It's got nice sort of crispy edges. This one was a little bit thick, and I also shredded it and flipped it and messed it up. But I think if you fried this to a crisp, like they expect you to, without flipping it, we're not going to flip this one. It's serving the same role that bacon does on the plate. What flavorings did I add? To the white part, we just added onion powder, garlic powder, and salt. To the red part, we added nutritional yeast, powdered mushroom, smoked paprika, liquid smoke, red dye, seasoning flavored seasoning. Lots of stuff. You know, while that one's frying up, I should be preparing the other part. Because there's another thing. It's a very savory mix, yes. And I think if I let them crisp up properly, they will do a good impression. Of a bacon. There's no gluten. This here is gluten-free. Okay, scratch that. It was gluten-free until I added the Maggi seasoning because the Maggi seasoning has gluten in it. Prior to adding the Maggi seasoning, which has its own gluten in it, this was gluten-free because this is the starch that we washed away when we were saving the gluten. This isn't the seitan. I already ate the seitan. When I made the seitan, I separated the gluten and the starch, and this is the starch. This is until I added the flavorings, this was pure, like, purified wheat starch. Scrambled eggs. Now, the scrambled eggs are one ingredient I simply could not find. It's in every single recipe for scrambled eggs, for vegan scrambled eggs that I have ever seen, and I've never been able to find it anywhere. Oh, let me come over here. I'm doing something on this side now. So this is chickpea flour, ground up. It's got an Indian name because it's used heavily in Indian cooking. The ingredient I can't find is called kala namak, which is black Himalayan black salt. It is not Himalayan pink salt that has been turned black. It is its own separate thing. It's supposed to be extremely sulfurous. So much so that you really can't eat it by itself. But you put it in vegan eggs to give them that sulfurous egginess that real eggs have. I'll be putting in some nutritional yeast instead. It is not the same. It's not even really similar, but it will give us some of that sort of protein flavor. We're also adding some turmeric for color mostly, a little bit for flavor. Some more smoked paprika. I'm gonna have to pick up some more smoked paprika. Only a dash of that. I'm not making mine with red onion, and I'm not making mine with broth. We're just adding water to this. And again, we're kind of making a batter. Let me check on my bacon over here, because I've just let this go. Oops. Just let it kind of sit. So hopefully the bottom's not burned to a crisp and it holds together like a crepe. Haha! Haha! Much nicer. It holds together. It's easy to flip. It's got that sort of texturing on the surface. I made tacos. Did I add pickled onions? I don't think I added pickled onions because I don't have any pickled onion. Oh, no, I don't. I like pickled onions. I've made a quick pickled onion a couple times, so it's possible. If you're ever curious about a previous project, I have all of my videos archived on my YouTube channel, which goes by the same name as, or I think it has an underscore in it. I don't think they're very good viewing because it's just an archive of this, but they are there for posterity. There's little lumps in here that I don't want. That are not getting caught by my whisk. Quick pickled red onions. I think every time I've done pickled onions, I've done quick pickle. You know what? I'm going to add to this. It's not in my recipe, and it's probably not advisable, but we've got the rest of this powdered mushroom. Oh, I'm on the wrong scene. My hands are all messy, so I can't switch them yet. I'm going to add the rest of my powdered mushroom into my chickpea mix here. I just realized I'm on this angle. You can't take powdered mushroom with you. I'm going to switch to the slightly larger whisk, though. See if I can't get this to incorporate a little bit. So the starch bacon appears to need quite a bit of time to form crispy bacon-like substance. I took the first one out much too early. I think that's the biggest issue there, because it's not burning. I mean, I've just been letting it sit there, and it's really not going off on me. I believe we're just cooking all the water out of it and getting a little smidgen of oil into it from the pan. Speaking of oil in the pan, we do need a, ooh, let's do olive oil for the egg. We don't need a ton. We do need that to be hot. Thankfully, that one is very forgiving. Oh, moisten. Thank you for the moisten. Moist. So, For those of you keeping score, and I know you are, these veggie substitutes for common breakfast items that we're working with today are very, very, very time consuming compared to the non-veggie versions. This savory crepe that's pretending to be bacon definitely takes a lot longer to cook than bacon. And I know from prior experience, so do the eggs. I thought maybe the bacon crepes would be a little bit faster because they are crepes, they're pretty thin, but since we're trying to get them crisp, they do need to sort of sit in there and cook away. And we've got one more to do after this one. The first one has not hardened up sitting on the plate. It's in fact gone a little bit soggy on me, so I definitely want to make sure that they are cooked. Bring this guy back over here. I was snacking on it. This first one is a little bit ugly. Taste is nice, but it's a little bit ugly and it doesn't have the crispness. Let's get the last one started. Let's get the eggs in the pan. Maybe. I don't have a dehydrator, but I could try running it in the oven on low just to drive the remaining heat out of it. I'm also considering chucking it back in the pan. So here, you can see the color difference between the one that I have done slowly and gotten crisp. A little bit of browning on the bottom. I think we overshot the bottom just a smidge. But this guy, he's kind of floppy. And I want to see if I can't polish him up a little bit. The flavor is nice, and it is definitely cooked. It's just like it's here. It's a springy. It is. Good comparison. I bet you could, because I'm sure somebody sells just wheat starch somewhere. But I bet you could make this with like other commonly available starches. Cornstarch has kind of a meh flavor by itself, but I bet you tapioca starch would work perfectly for this. We're doing it this way because I have the wheat starch that I washed out, but put you right on the board actually. Pop back over to the stove. I'm going to give this guy a chance to sort of catch up because I feel like it's just a matter of being undercooked. I've never worked with rice starch. I would say it's worth experimenting with various starches. I I'm sort of automatically poo-pooing cornstarch because the flavor of cornstarch by itself is kind of off-putting. Oh, we need to remember to stir our eggs around. We're not going for an omelet, we're going for a scramble. Okay. Eggs. Temperature on the eggs is going to come down a little bit. Oh, okay. I guess you can buy just plain old wheat starch, potato starch. Potato starch is probably going to be one of the most commonly available ones. It probably would work with cornstarch too. I'm hesitant because I think cornstarch has kind of a gnarly flavor. Um, ooh, this first one we made over here is very crispy. I'm going to cut him into strips now before he's completely hardened up because I feel like it might get hard enough to just shatter if we wait. Too long. I don't know if you can hear the crisp as I cut these stripes, but it definitely has a crisp crunch as I cut the stripes. Oop, that one broke. Okay. There. What do you think of that? It's a strip of bacon. Oh, the beans are getting real dry. Good shout. The beans are in need of a little bit more water. I'm a little bit concerned that the beans might not even be done in time when we get to the bottom of this. They are. It does take a while to cook beans. I started them right at the very. Bleh, stumble over that sentence. I started them right at the very beginning, knowing that they would take the longest. They still feel kind of firm. They're edible. They're edibly soft. I would like them to be softer for your classic baked bean. This stuff is hella sticky. Yes, a pressure cooker would come in handy. Mmm, crunchy. I need to stop snacking. I'm hungry because this is my breakfast. I haven't eaten it yet. Okay, I'm going to say that guy's probably crisped up enough that he's not complete sog anymore. I have a little bit more batter, I have to use it. It's not going to keep. So we're going to, once again, oil the pan. And do our last bacon, and then we can get creative with it, I guess. Okay. I made a decision. I decided that it was too fiddly to make the stripes, and I just poured them in there. Swirled them around, and it's going to taste nice, but it's not going to have those nice stripes to it. We got one with nice stripes. I'm satisfied with that. And now I'm going to switch the pans here because I want this scrambled egg to form up. It is really trying to stick to my non-stick pan here. It's supposed to form little curds like a scrambled egg does. Which means it still needs to get more water out of it because it's not to that consistency yet. This is the biggest issue that I've always experienced with non-egg eggs. Real eggs cook super fast. Scrambled eggs are an under a minute preparation. Veggie eggs take a lot longer to form up. So if what you're looking for is fast scrambled eggs, then I think you have to get those pre-packaged ones that come with all the chemicals. Because the homemade stuff just takes a while. Well, the bacon, it was the big experiment of the day. I've done scrambled eggs like this once before, and I decided to throw them in now. Because they kind of go with the bacon. They look like not quite done egg. Yeah, they're getting there. See, they're starting to sort of firm up. They're very pasty, though. That's the thing. And they really want to stick. They also won't really taste like eggs. The black salt is the thing that really drags them into the realm of tasting like eggs. I don't know how else to get sulfur into our recipe. Not a lot of not a lot of commonly available ingredients that are just very sulfurous, aside from eggs. And even with eggs, if they're too sulfurous, nobody wants them. So that's what rotten egg smell is. It's the sulfur compounds coming out. I need a stiffer spatula to really get in under this. But see, it's starting to come together into a blob. We just need to make sure that it doesn't firm up into one big glob when it's finished. We want it to be sort of little curd pieces, like a scrambled egg. This spatula cannot rest in the pan because it is made of plastic. Okay. Take a look at the beans again. Here's the thing with the beans. They taste nice, and they have a tender bite, but the skins are still firm. I can sort of feel them knocking against the spoon as I stir it around. And I think they might need a little bit more broth to them. Back in here and prevent this guy from burning onto the bottom. Yeah. Okay. Much like when you're forming a dough, it's becoming easier and easier to pick up the little extra bits as I go along. As they dry out and sort of scrape off the bottom, and the big thing becomes less sticky on its own surfaces. It's coming along. How's that guy looking? See if we can't grab the edge. It's hot. I've seen chefs do this. I've seen professional chefs do this where they reach in and flip the crepe with their fingers. You know what? They're crazy. It's much too hot for that. That one just looks like a big egg now, but with the white on the middle and the uh, red on the outside. You know, the egg red. The red of the egg. Okay, this stuff has achieved its sort of cohesive level. And I think if I take it off the heat and sort of chop it up, it'll form its curd, its egg curds. I could have done the entire project here without the beans, and probably been perfectly happy. Like a piece of toast on the side. Okay. Okay. Let's get the eggs out of there. Get over here. Oop. I dropped the button of my spice grinder. Uh, the issue is with them that they want to kind of stick back together into a blob. So you kind of have to massage them into the shape of eggs. Look like eggs. We will put some of our nicer bacon here as well. And then I'm going to have a little pot of beans. And then we can dive in on all this stuff. And I can tell you about it instead of snacking on the side and being like, ooh, with our steaming hot cup of room temperature coffee. Bring the one bacon circle back to the front. Stir around our beans. I can still have toast. I do like pepper. And I do like hot sauce. They have some salt in them already. So I will taste them before I add any salt. Let's get this last bacon crepe at least off the heat before I dive in on this one. And I want some beans in my little cup here. Or I could do beans on toast. We could do a really quick toast. Can I do a quick toast? Am I quick enough to do a quick toast? Can you guys hold on for 4 hours while I make some fresh bread and then toast it? I actually have a loaf of bread here, so I'm going to attempt a quick toast from a fresh loaf. Yeah. So, quick stovetop toast or fry bread. In keeping with our theme of all this stuff is veggie today, I need a veggie oil to put on my fry bread. Put my bread knife away. We're only going to do one slice because I've only got that much room. This is not gluten-free bread. This is normal bread. Standard bread. Gluten-free wasn't my intended theme, but and in fact, I added gluten to one of these things. I put flavored seasoning in the bacon. And the seasoning flavor of seasoning is gluten. This last crepe doesn't look quite as pretty. We definitely got the pretty one already. Now, an English fry bread would use butter for sure. Also, gluten-free bread. I'm sorry for gluten intolerant people, but gluten-free bread is disgusting, and I would rather go without bread than have gluten-free bread. Um, if I was gluten intolerant, I would just say, oh well, I can't have bread anymore. I'll have something else. I won't pretend I'm having bread. Fry bread doesn't take very long, so we got to keep an eye on that one. I do want to cut this crepe into our... Oof. Oh, I see what it's doing. Oh, I see. The white part of our bacon actually is crisping up faster than the red part, which is the opposite of how real bacon works. We will just save these chunks. Cornbread. Cornbread has flour in it, though. Has gluten flour in it, though. They put some in there to bind it, because if you just use corn, it falls apart because corn doesn't have the binding agents. There's not a lot of flour in it, but there's some. How you doing, fry bread? Are you frying up? Are you resisting my attempts to flip you? Hey, you're looking pretty good. Clean up my crumblies here. Okay, we are right on the cusp of everything. As for these beans, I might just put a ton more water on them and let them simmer for another couple hours to really soften up. I could. I have a tomato. I don't have any L. I lack the L. Because lettuce is a waste of time. The BLT is the only thing upon which I still eat lettuce, except for things that come with lettuce at like restaurants. I'm phasing out the concept of lettuce. Okay. Toast. Beans on. The flavor's real good on those beans. They just need some more time to soften up. And I'm not gonna make you guys sit and watch those beans boil for another 2 hours. The flavor is on point though. They just need some more boiling time. So we're gonna add 2 cups of water to it, bring them back up to a simmer, and they're gonna sit there and go. There we go. That's the thing. I'm gonna go take a picture of this with my camera, which is all the way in the front, a million miles away from anything. And then I'll come back and I'll tell you all about it. A couple different angles here. Okay. 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 And we're back. You can still hear me. Of course you can. We tested that. We've tested that repeatedly, where you can hear me all the way up to the front herb garden. So here we go. This is now. When I first came up with this concept, I thought to myself, "Ooh, I'm gonna make an entirely vegan full English breakfast." And then I started doing some research about that, and I rapidly backed off because I didn't want to have to figure out how to make vegan black pudding. That seems like a massive hassle. Let me get out a fork, and we will taste test these things. I have been snacking on the bacon already, but I would like to give a taster of these eggs. No, they don't taste like eggs. I'm not going to lie. You would never mistake these for eggs. The texture is similar to a scrambled egg, but with a little bit of that beany sort of fibery backing to it, because we used chickpea flour, which is a, a kind of bean. They're good. The dominant flavor is nutritional yeast, which is sort of a it tastes like sort of a savory protein. They do need a little bit of salt. There was salt in them, but they do need a little bit of salt. They also they dry out on the surface faster than real eggs would. The bacon, you get a nice came out nice and crisp. Again, you would never mistake this for real bacon. It's savory, smoky, but it doesn't have that meat flavor to it. The savoriness is very much like we could have added a little MSG to this. I bet you that would have perked it up. Imitated the meatiness a little bit. That would have been a good idea. We'll do that next time. It's savory, but the savoriness is very much vegetable savoriness. So mushroom and onion type things. Not that it tastes like I'm eating an onion or I'm eating mushrooms. It's just that's sort of the realm of savory flavor it is giving me. But it definitely also has a little bit of like toast about it. You can tell it's made out of wheat, out of starch, because it has that little bit of a toasty edge to it. I like it. It's actually really good. Um, I don't think you actually have to cook it to a crisp like this to be good, because the sort of softer ones that I was snacking on earlier had perfectly good flavor, and they hold together quite well. They're just kind of chewy. But when you're making bacon, I always try to avoid the chewy, because that's undercooked fat, usually. In this case, the chewy is more like a crepe or a thin pancake. So it's not an unpleasant chew. It bites easily, and you still have that full savory flavor. So I think you could do these without having to cook them as long as we did and make them crisp up. You could do these much faster and treat them more like crepes, where you take them off when they're still soft, when they're still a bit soft. I like the flavor. They're good. I might actually go out of my way to try making these again, maybe with different starches. Stir my beans real quick. Final thing, I already tasted the coffee. The coffee tastes like coffee. Final thing is our beans on toast. Mmm. The beans are nice and tender. They still have a little bit of firmness, which I'm trying to simmer off of them a little bit, but perfectly edible at this phase. This is an American style baked bean, so there's some tomato in there, there's some onion, some garlic, and a lot of molasses. So it's got this sort of dark, sticky sweetness to it. English style baked beans have a lot more tomato, and I think they actually put a bunch of ketchup in there in the mix, so it's also got this sort of vinegary bite to it. I'm not a big fan of them. I'm a big fan of American style that are this molasses base. There's actually no vinegar in mine at all. And they probably could stand a splash of vinegar just because they are a little bit one note sweetness. It's sort of it's a deep rich sweetness, but it's just a deep rich sweetness. I think a tiny bit of sharpness would help, but not a ton. Yeah. So I think our big experiment of the day was the bacon, and I think it's a success. Enough of a success that I'm going to keep it in my roster of things I may try again. I would love to try these chickpea scrambled eggs with the black salt, but I've never been able to find it except by order online, and it's a bit pricey. Um, mm, mm. And of course, if I had made this with real bacon, real eggs, and a can of beans, this would have taken me like 15 minutes tops. So, that's a consideration for if you're trying to have vegan food. It takes a bit longer, unless you aren't trying to. Okay, it takes a bit longer when you're imitating non-vegan food with vegan ingredients. If you're just making vegan food that's not trying to pretend to be something, it doesn't take any longer. It's perfectly good. I don't think these are going to be mainstays, but they are. I'm not going to forget about them. They're pretty good. This thing is interesting. That one's a little bit floppy. This is interesting stuff, and I kind of want to experiment with it. since it's a bit like a tortilla, you could use this as the outside, put filling in it, and it's already got this savory flavor to it. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. Tacos with bacon flavored uh, shells. Um, we will keep that in mind. Yeah, the bean bacon. Partly it's because I I wanted to make this was the thing I wanted to make was the starch bacon. The chickpea eggs I threw in because I was already making a vegan bacon, and because I already had this old package of chickpea flour that I just need to use. I don't have enough uses for it. I got to come up with ways to use it because it's a little bit old. So maybe we'll just come up with other ways to use it until it's gone. Just polish it off. Use it for things that it's intended for instead of trying to turn it into eggs. Uh, but let's wrap ourselves up and see who's live. Oh my God. Okay, we're going to go see Twiggy because Twiggy is playing Myst. I love Myst. Oh my God, do I love Myst. If you're not familiar with Myst, it came out in 1995 and it pioneered the genre of puzzle games. Um, wow. I don't know if it's the first playthrough or not. I haven't even looked. I just saw in the list there Twiggy playing Myst. Instant click. Didn't even scroll down. Um, that's exciting. So let's go watch Twiggy play Myst. I'm hoping it's the first playthrough and that she's struggling because that's a lot of fun. Not the struggling, but it's fun to see someone work through those puzzles the first time. Um, and then yeah, I'm gonna eat my brunch here before it gets completely cold. And I will be back next week. I mentioned at the very beginning I'm planning a maybe birthday stream, so keep your eyes on the schedule for that. Otherwise, see you next week.